Thank you, President Chupp, for those very generous words. You probably got me in a little trouble with some of my colleagues on that speakership thing. But thank you. It's great to be back here at Swarthmore. And I want to say to Venice Thomas, I'm looking forward to your next CD. She didn't want to mention it up here, but she does have a CD coming out. So I hope we'll all go get that CD. We've already exchanged emails. Congratulations to all of you Swarthmore graduates, to your family, friends, to the entire Swarthmore community. It is great to be back. I have so many fond memories of Swarthmore, good friends, late night debates, Crum Creek escapades, spring break road trips. And I have to say, while I wasn't always the most serious student by Swarthmore standards, I was always struck by the infectious enthusiasm Swarthmore professors bring to their classrooms. So much so, and this was the problem, so much so after each class, I wanted to change my major, which in fact I changed 4 times here at Swarthmore. 2 before I took a trip to Central and South Asia, and 2 more times after I returned. I know my parents were holding their breaths and constantly checking their pocketbooks, wondering if I would ever graduate from Swarthmore. Well, I made it through, and so did you. Congratulations. And with the benefit of hindsight, I can say, as others have today, that Swarthmore had a major impact on my approach to life. Swarthmore helped me develop a real curiosity for exploring things that I had never focused on before. While I had great adventures as a foreign service child, growing up in places like Pakistan, India, Sri Lanka, and Turkey, I must confess that when it came to scientific subjects like biology and chemistry or physics, I was pretty illiterate. Then at Swarthmore, I shared a suite my freshman year with a fellow by the name of Neil Gershenfeld, who was, yes, a physics major. We became very good friends, but I have to tell you there were times that I had no idea what Neil was talking about. But it was probably thanks to Neil that in my junior year here, I took physics. I had a great professor, and to make a long story short, I actually started majoring in physics. Now, I got through quantum mechanics before I realized I was not going to become a Nobel laureate in physics, and changed my major to philosophy, which, by the way, was a great choice. Here's the moral of the story. I'm still fascinated by physics, and the experience of opening up this unknown area encouraged me to follow my curiosity wherever it has led me. So in these times when there is increasing pressure to narrowly specialize, I urge you to constantly plunge into unknown areas. The material I learned in physics has been of great use to me in debates over nuclear arms control and nuclear proliferation, but most of all, cultivating that range of interests simply makes life much more interesting. By the way, my friend Neil is now director of the Bits and Atoms department at MIT, and I still don't know what Neil is talking about. A second lesson ingrained here at Swarthmore is the need to constantly question the assumptions behind the views that I hold and ideas expressed for others. The bumper sticker, which I know you've seen, "Question Authority," was very popular when I was a college student here. And that premise, the premise of that expression is certainly true, that conventional wisdom is often not wise, and that people in positions of authority don't have a monopoly on the truth, whether they be professors, CEOs, generals, or members of Congress. This was never a call to be disrespectful, but simply a call to ask the hard questions. And that's an exercise that we all know is useful in every field of endeavor. But political debates are especially rife with groupthink and ideological orthodoxy. And the trends today are worrying. the data show that many people are avoiding ideas that clash with their already established views. When I was your age, I'm sure you're tired of hearing your parents say this, but when I was your age, people got their news primarily from our nation's leading newspapers and the big three broadcast networks. Today, we have the benefit of a large array of information sources: cable channels, online services, blogs, social networks, Twitter, others. But we face a paradox. We have more news sources than ever, but most people are now tuning into a narrow band of outlets that reflect their political leanings and filter out the rest. I'm sure you've witnessed this. Republicans and conservatives tend to tune into Fox News. Democrats and liberals lean toward MSNBC. CNN, which tries to straddle the mushy middle, has lost market share. And this pattern is now reinforced by technology. The algorithms of social networks like Facebook automatically send you news analyses based on what you have previously liked. So as a result, we find increasingly a divided public talking past each other in competing echo chambers. So I encourage you to resist this trend and make a deliberate effort to listen to alternative views that test your own assumptions. At the risk of raising my family's blood pressure, I do watch cable shows associated with opposing viewpoints and go on them frequently. It has helped me better understand the perspective of others, and I urge you, regardless of your political views, to do the same and raise your political blood pressure. I am not naive enough to believe that this will end polarization. Most of our political differences stem from genuine disagreements that are part of a very healthy democracy. And we also know that the truth or the right policy does not necessarily lie at the midpoint between two opposing political positions. For example, there is no reasonable midpoint between the evidence-based reality that humans are contributing to climate change and the political rejection of that reality. Still, I would argue that even when better listening doesn't result in compromises that advance the common good, a clearer understanding of opposing views helps to better define the choices that we face as a country. Finally, at Swarthmore, I came to appreciate the power of direct action. One of my first political experiences was participating in a movement called the Swarthmore Anti-Apartheid Committee, to pressure the college to divest from companies doing business with the old apartheid regime in South Africa. If you go to Swarthmore's own Global Nonviolent Action database, you will find a section entitled Swarthmore College Students Win Divestment from South Africa, 1978 through 1989. Two lessons are embedded in that headline. The first is that the student protests had an impact and they worked. The second is it didn't happen overnight. It took persistence. It took sticking with it, and that is an important lesson. In my first job out of graduate school, I worked on foreign policy issues as a staffer in the United States Senate. And I was there in 1986 when the Congress passed bipartisan legislation to impose comprehensive sanctions on South Africa. That legislation helped break the back of apartheid. But as Nelson Mandela recognized, the political wave that helped pass that historic legislation was generated ripple by activists on college campuses in the 1970s and the 1980s at places like Swarthmore. Witnessing those developments taught me that social and political change is not imposed from the top down. It almost always bubbles up from the grassroots. Today we face huge challenges and also opportunities, from addressing climate change to comprehensive immigration reform, to fixing our campaign finance system, to confronting huge gaps in economic opportunity in our country and around the world. But change only happens when individuals make the conscious decision to get in the way of injustice. It is great to have theories about change, but ideas without action accomplish nothing. As Eleanor Roosevelt said, the world needs dreamers and the world needs doers, but most of all, the world needs dreamers who do. I know that Swarthmore has prepared you to be both dreamers and doers to make the world a better place. Let's get to work together.